YouTube. Sunday talk rubbish time. This week I'm playing my Washburn A5. Somebody asked me about it, I'll go into it later. Main question of the week is what is Bucky? And I was looking at my on my YouTube analytics thing, and it's come up that most of the people who watch my videos are from UK or America, but it's actually only like 20% of those two, and then the rest are all, I don't know, from other places. So probably even people in the UK, not everyone's going to know what Bucky is, and in America no one will, I wouldn't imagine. So this is a bottle of Bucky. Now this is it's a fortified wine, so it's kind of like sherry or something like that. It's basically red wine bought from France, and then it goes to Buckfast Abbey, which is in the south of England. I believe that's the bottling thing. I think it's Devon. I think it's been Buckfast Abbey, which is, there's a picture of the abbey on the front here. See, so you get the grapes that gets put into the abbey, and then out comes a bottle of Bucky. This stuff is 15% alcohol, so it's like, you know, red wine would normally be sort of 12 or something like that. So it's a little bit stronger. It's got a screw on top, and it's been kicking about for many years. I seem to remember a thing on Facebook a few months ago, maybe about a year ago, about a guy that had bought, some poor guy had made the mistake of bidding on an original bottle, like I think it was even a stone or a ceramic bottle from like 100 years ago or something like that. He ended up paying £10,000 for it. It's like, so he went on a GoFundMe thing so he could actually afford to pay for it. Yeah, so it used to be like tonic as in medicine, it was called, hence tonic wine. It does say on it now, tonic wine does not imply health giving. It doesn't actually say that on it anymore. They change the label every now and then. It used to. It's red wine based aperitif, 99.28%, and then high caffeine content 30 milligrams per 100 ml. So it's kind of like it's got like Red Bull levels of caffeine in it as well. I'm sure it normally says, where am I not seeing the name tonic wine does not imply health giving properties? Doesn't say it anymore. Maybe it does make you healthy now. So this is, although it's made in Devon, it's massively popular in Scotland for some reason, which is where I am. You know, Devon's the south coast of England for you other people from the rest of the world, and Scotland's a different country, although we're in the United Kingdom. I try not to mention my political thoughts on such things, but Scotland is different. But we do like the English, the Buckfast tonic wine, which I don't think it really sells anywhere else. I think there's places, I mean, up here it's just every booze shop worth its salt sells this stuff. It's recently gone up in price, but it was normally about sort of £7 a bottle, something like that. I think it's now at £9. There was a big shortage during the COVID thing, where it suddenly just disappeared and everyone was like panicking, like no Bucky. So when the shop did get it in, folk were just buying a box at a time. I think part of the reason is it's a nice size of bottle. 15% does get you pure hammered, but you're not really that as likely to get to puke or pass out. You know, it's kind of like a nice amount. Also, it's always the same. So if you're going to buy red wine, which is a little bit snooty, I suppose, you've got all different types. Sometimes it's minging, sometimes it's nice. Bucky's always kind of the same. I reckon it sort of tastes a bit like, somebody said before, it tastes a bit like Coke and red wine put together. It's dead sweet. You get used to it. It's really good. I used to drink when I was like 16, something like that. Obviously not old enough to drink. I used to drink a bottle of this on a Saturday night, and on a Friday night I would get Mad Dog at MD 2020 because it was like £4 a bottle and this was £6 a bottle, so it was a bit more expensive for the Bucky. But it's like a religion here. That's why the Buckfast guitars that I've been doing, if everyone always wonders why I just did the 30th one on Tuesday there, and I sold it, I swapped it with somebody I know from the Guns N' Roses. If you look at that poster there, for the first Black Sabbath band gig I was involved with, we were supported by Guns N' Rosie, who are Guns N' Roses tribute with a girl called Rosie singing. Apparently her name wasn't really Rosie, which I was a wee bit disappointed with, but That was Guns N' Roses, and the drummer actually drank a bottle of bucky while he was playing the drums, supporting us, and I was sitting there kind of like, I think I did have a wee drink of it, but I was driving, so a wee sip's not going to do anything. And I savoured it. I kind of took a wee tiny sip and I kind of slushed it around my mouth for 5 minutes to fully enjoy it, which isn't normally the case with bucky. Normally you just tan it. So buckfast, it's, I suppose, a sort of equivalent in America would be Thunderbird, maybe. Not that, I mean, it's a similar sort of, it doesn't taste the same. But you should get it. Actually, there's places in my pal. I've actually got an empty bottle. My pal was in Benidorm last year, must have been, and he brought me back an empty bottle because in Benidorm, because this is so popular with Scottish people, they actually import it into Spain. So it's got like Spanish writing on it. So one of the bucky casters at some point is going to come with Spanish writing on it, which is quite unusual. Comes in, that's a standard bottle. As far as I'm aware, it's always been that shape, but according to my pal who started drinking before me, this is like 20 odd years ago, it used to come in a sort of square shaped bottle, but they changed it because it was too violent a weapon for hitting someone over the head with, the square one, whereas this one smashes easier or something. I don't know, I'd imagine it's probably just a cost thing. Famously, you can tell what number, well, it's kind of partly why I numbered all the Buckfast guitars. There's a number on the bottom. This one's number 16 around at the bottom here, and there's I'm not going to be able to get that to an angle, you can read it. It's got a 16 put in like moulded into the glass, and it's you get people that there's all these stories kicking about, but I think it goes between 1 and 28, that number, and I should probably have made a significant for the 28th Buckfaster caster, but I forgot. People say that it depends whether it's at the top of the barrel, when you take it out the top of the barrel of wine at the monk place at the abbey, it would be taken from the top of the bottle, and when you went to 28 it was at the bottom, so it was kind of lumpy. People call that toenails, because obviously the monks are squishing the grapes with their feet. I don't think that's really how it works. I'm pretty sure they just import French wine and then add stuff to it. The label, I've actually got a couple of labels from about 20 years ago, and it used to actually have ingredients on it: vanillin, potassium and sodium glycerous phosphate, and something else. I actually wrote a song that had it in it. That's the only reason I can remember that much. So when I do the ultimate bucky caster, which is no one's seen yet, it's going to be amazing. I just haven't bothered my arse to do it yet. It's been sitting there for about a year. I'll probably have blow up that label, the one with the ingredients on it, and then print that on the front of the guitar. Yeah, so that's bucky. Lots of people, it's still dead popular. There's people, it's like, okay, it's meant, it's not meant for kids, obviously, but a lot of people, that's their first carry out, because it's dead good, because you can, rather than carrying about tins of beer and having to go to the toilet all the time, you can just have this in the inside pocket your denim jacket and then back in again. It even came in cans at one point, like Red Bull size cans, about 5 years ago. It came in cans just for a short stint, and that was fantastic, because you could just have like a wee can in your pocket, and then you'd just be on the street just drinking a can of Red Bull or something, even though it was bucky. You're not allowed to drink on the streets in Scotland, which is probably a good thing. I'm not sure if you still can in England, actually. I do remember going down to England, maybe down to London, and we were like, yes, you can drink, just pure walking about the streets, just with bottles of bucky, and it's like, Also, finding it in remote places, I remember this must be going back a lot of years. In fact, I think it was 1999, so 21 years ago. Me and my pals went down to see Mike Oldfield in London, and I think we were there a day early or whatever, and we decided we were going to go and try and find Abbey Road, for the Beatles cover. So we found Abbey Road, and on Abbey Road, like about the other end of Abbey Road, obviously we went to the zebra crossing on the Beatles album covers right at the start of Abbey Road. Abbey Road is like 100 yards, and then you get the thing. We were at the other end, which was about 2 miles away. We went to the wrong end first and walked along it, and there was a place called House of Booze that sold bucky. So we got a bottle each. So there are photos in existence, like old-fashioned photos of us walking across the Abbey Road thing. It was absolutely pissing down and dark, so really bad photos, drinking bottles of bucky, and me standing on the steps of the Abbey Road studios like that. So I sort of ran up to the steps and then photo, and then ran back out again before any security guards napped us. Not that I think they were really bothered. That must happen all the time. It's maybe different if you're hanging about for 10 minutes, but running up to the steps, getting your pals to take a photo from the street and then running off again, I'm sure they've let that slip. Also, on a similar story, last year, I went down to London to see Baby Metal, my favourite band. My pal Wayne, met him down there, and I'd been up. I decided I was going to get the megabus, which was a bit of a shocker. It was like, that was quite tough. I thought, oh, I'll just sleep in the bus. You can't sleep in a megabus on the way down. So I ended up there at 6 in the morning or something like that, after I've not had any sleep. And then the gig was at 8 o'clock at night or something like that. So all day I was pure dying. We went to the Brixton Academy in London, and the queue for Baby Metal was right round the whole building. And I was like, right, let's go for a pint. At this point, I'm absolutely having trouble standing up just because I'm so tired. And then we were going to go to the pub across the road, and then I saw a wee carrot shop, and it was just like, oh, and they had bucky. So there's also a photo of me just like, yay, we managed to get a bottle of bucky, and we drank it in the queue on the outside out. Because it was so much caffeine in it, I was totally tanked up by the time the gig started. It was great. I think that's probably about the bucky thing. It's our national drink, even though our national drink's probably whiskey, but nobody drinks whiskey, or not very many. I think maybe because with whiskey you've got that danger of drinking too much and being sick, or just being absolutely floored. Whereas a bottle of bucky's got the right amount. I mean, for many years, my drinking hasn't, if anything's, come down. I used to drink maybe 3 bottles a week, something like that. Yeah, I used to get my pal G used to come round on a Monday and a Wednesday night, and we would have a bit of a jam and a bottle of bucky, and then Saturday night or the Friday night would be get properly tanked. But even on a big massive drinking night out, I would basically have a bottle of bucky and then a beer or a cider, like a can, just so that I would drink this up till about midnight, and then it would be done, and then I would just have a beer to last me till 3 in the morning when we get chucked out, sort of thing. Great fun. And the bucky guitars are, I built the first one as a sort of joke. Actually, I was looking through, I found a memory stick that's got photos from a previous computer on it, and I've actually got the bucky caster, which I was originally, the first one, number 1, was red and blue. I kind of made it like Pepsi, so it was like red, blue and white, and it kind of, and I think I was trying to sell it for, I can't remember what I was trying to sell it for, but I kept reducing the price on it. Just nobody was interested in it at all, and it got down to the point where it was like, it's not really worth selling. I can't sell it for 30 quid. It's a working good guitar and nobody's interested in it. So I thought, right, I'm going to paint it bucky colours. Painted it bucky colours, and then the phenomenon was born. It just went nuts on the Facebook buy and sell page. It was getting like 100 likes. Whereas if you look on the Facebook buy and sell page, which I'm normally on, average, if you get any likes, you're maybe talking half a dozen, 10, something like that, for sticking up a Strat or a Les Paul or something like that. You get some likes, and then I'm getting 100. Actually, the last one I did got 200. I cheated a little bit because I sold it. It sold after about half an hour, and it already had 150 comments or something. So I didn't actually pull the advert, even though it was sold. I didn't pull the advert until it hit 200, like a couple hours later, just for the sake of it. So and quite a lot of them I don't even put up for sale. They're sold on spec. People just go, "Have you got a bucky guitar?" And it's like, well, this one's sort of finished. That'll do it. So I don't even have to advertise them anymore. Pretty good. So I've got a few more that I'm going to be sitting, like a couple of GP Strats that are going to be bucky coloured, and they'll be coming up for sale soon. So that's bucky. Yeah, you go. A 15-minute lecture on bucky and what it means. But what it means is lots of people are totally, it's like a football team, totally bucky supporters. I've been in bands, several bands, where everybody in the band drinks bucky. It's like, yay! And it doesn't seem to matter, even though I'm getting old now. They still get old people who still buy a bottle of bucky. Good. Yeah, so this guitar here, the reason I've got this out is somebody commented on this video. I did this video months ago. They bought it in 1980. They bought an A5 in 1983 in Aberdeen, I think he said, and sold it in the late 80s. And I think he was wondering if this was that exact guitar. I bought this guitar. This is how I met my pal James, who is not here anymore. I did a videos this week of a guitar that looks very similar to this. I think I called it Mystery Guitar, and a black Falcon, which kind of looks a bit like that. He's another Washburn nut, and he was selling this. Oh, have to have that. I don't think it was actually for sale. He just must have seen me on YouTube and said, "Oh, I've got an A5 if you're interested." And I was like, "Right," and he only lives 2 miles away, so I got it off him. He reckoned that he bought it early 2000s off eBay somewhere in the UK, so it could be the one from. If you're the guy who bought it in Aberdeen, it says it's got quite a distinctive bit of wear here on that fret, because obviously whoever it was played it liked that bend, whatever it was they were doing. But I don't think that would have been there if he'd had it from, if he bought it in the mid-80s and sold it in the late 80s, you're talking, I don't think it would take 5 years to wear that out. It's just funny how some people must have a favourite lick and they've just worn out that one, so they must have been playing blues and A or whatever to get that. That's a fabulous guitar. I really like this. This is one of my favourites, even though it's the cheapest of the stage series and it's a bolt-on neck. It's also a maple neck, which none of the other ones have. All the other ones are all rosewood. I like maple, and it's got a Toblerone style Super V on it. I added push-pull pots to it, so it's got coil splits. But I like the telly thing. I didn't want to touch it, because it's, but then I was looking at the pots, and the pots weren't original anyway, so I was like, right, sod it. In goes the coil splits. This is quite a rare one as well, because it's got 2 humbuckers. The A5, I think this is 1983. This is the last of the Yamaki ones, and then when they came out, and maybe later in '83, the A5 now had 2 single coils and the telly, so it was sort of like a Telecaster type thing. Whereas when I got this one, because it got 2 humbuckers, it wasn't really very telly. Now I can get the telly sounds by popping them both into single coils. Let's get the telly plate, which I always liked. Yeah, so that's this guitar. So this one might be yours. I don't know, Mr. Aberdeen man, but I don't think so. What else are we going for? What's the worst guitar you've ever played? I just got that someone asked me that this morning, and I thought it was on the Falcon video, and I thought it said that's the worst guitar you've ever played, and it's like, oh, hold on, that's just a really good. Oh no, hold on, it says what is, not that is. So thinking about this morning, the worst guitar I've ever played, I'm not including ones that are broken, because obviously you get, I can get a guitar that the neck's twisted or something like that, and so it's the worst guitar you've ever played because you can't play it. But I'm not counting that, because that could really happen when it's been damaged. Do you know what I mean? That could happen to any guitar. You could get this, smash it so the neck's off it, and it's the worst guitar you've ever played. So the worst one, I suppose you got a wee bit of a disappointment as well. One of the worst ones, definitely, if you look at my videos, I did a video for a Hondo, and I've had a few Hondos. Hondo was the first guitar I bought that was like really cheap and really good. It was like one of the sort of 80s Telecaster type thing, and it was really good. And so I was thinking Hondo's rocking, and then I realised if you look into Hondos a bit more, there's quite a few different levels of Hondo, and some of them are Japanese. I've got a Japanese Hondo bass, and they're excellent. Matsumoto built, so brilliant. And even everything after that is Samick built, so that's kind of like a modern guitar. If you go in and buy a PRSSE or something like that, it's basically that sort of guitar you're buying. Different shape, but it's that. One of the reasons I like much older guitars is they seem to have homogenized guitars, is that the right word? Where you can go into a shop and try, like a PRSSE or a modern Schecter, and they're all basically exactly the same guitar, but a different styling. They just kind of, they've got some sort of formula, but it's something like this doesn't apply to that, with its Toblerone neck, and it feels really weird, and it's it's very different. Whereas most modern guitars are kind of exactly the same as each other. It's like you could play it and go like that. What are you playing? It's like oh, it's a PRS. Like, whereas it could have been anything, because they're all made in the same factory or all made in a similar way. So that Hondo I bought was a Les Paul. I keep seeing them. People are charging a lot of money for them. They go for the same amount of money as the good ones. The body was plywood. The neck was plywood. on its side, like the neck was plywood. So it's like if you imagine plywood running this way, doing the neck. The pickups were humbucker looking, but there was actually just a wee tiny single coil in behind like a humbucker cover. The pots in it were absolute pants. The switch was broken. The tuners, you could just bend them. It was awful. I can't remember. I did it up as best as I could, and I think I sold it for like 40 or 50 quid. And I was very much when I was selling it, look, this does look like a Les Paul, but it really isn't. It's kind of. That was an awful guitar, so I'll always avoid them. But not to say that, if you look at other Hondos, I think I've not actually bought any, but I've done a couple up for my pals and fixed a few. The sort of later on 80s ones when were made by Samick are basically an Epiphone Les Paul. Well, the Epiphone in the 90s were made by Samick as well, so it's basically the same. A very, very similar guitar. They're good, but not all Hondos. Some Hondos are truly atrocious, and this thing was, it's not even like, it was one of those ones that you couldn't, it's like, where do you stop replacing bits? It's like the bridge, the hardware was like pot metal. You could, if you took it off, I'm sure you could just snap it. It was that crap. But then you start going, I put new hardware on it, new tuners, new pickups, new electrics, and then you've still got a shit guitar because the neck's made of plywood. So you put a new neck on it, and then body shit. So you basically just end up, you just buy another guitar and throw away the Hondo. It was atrocious. Other bad guitars, I had one called an Audition. This is many, many years ago, which looked really cool. It was kind of sort of like a 335, but like a small body, and it's sort of had SG horns on it. Audition being, I think it was Woolworth's home brand or something like that, and it was basically crap. It wasn't a real guitar. You do get ones a bit like that. I mean, I'm mad into my 70s, 80s Japanese guitars. Also in the 80s from Japan, they made absolute shite. You sort of see them at Tesco's and stuff like that. They're not all really bad, but they're not my thing. My thing is the 80s ones where you're getting a guitar that, okay, it's old, yes, it's a crazy shape, but just as an actual piece of musical instrument, it's the same as what you pay a couple of grand for now. Just the quality of the build, the quality of the parts, all that. I mean, this would absolutely wipe the floor with most modern guitars, and I'm sure there's plenty of people out there with their American, Gibson or American Strat who are looking at this and go like, and it's like, this is fucking absolutely blow them out of the water, no problem. Other bad ones, a couple of brands I actually avoid. One of them is Swift guitars. If you've ever seen them, I had a Les Paul, and it was awful. And I had a Randy Rhoads type thing, and it was awful as well. It's like, it was just, once you get to a certain level of cheap, it's just too cheap, and it just, it's not a real instrument. So this has turned into quite a long video. So basically that was it. But the worst guitar I ever had was a Hondo, partly because I was expecting it to be good, maybe, and then a couple of Swifts. I honestly, I see Swift guitars sometimes at a tenner and 20 quid, and I just decide it's not worth it because I can't physically make them play well. There's lots of companies where you can buy a guitar and it's, it plays really badly, but you can make it work by fixing it up. I'm just moving on to this guitar. I got this week. This is another BBR, like a black, red, but not a Marlin this time. This one's a Honor Professional series called an SR Devil. And actually I quite like it. It's kind of like, is it a Charvel Star sort of Explorer with this bit cut away? It kind of looks like my double neck. I've got an Ibanez Destroyer, and I built a double neck drawing around it, and it's sort of this kind of shape, so I'm quite into this sort of shape. I'll be doing a video for this during the week. I'm just putting it on just now because why not? This is the ancient strings on it, 10, 15, 20 years old. I didn't really get to my questions yet, so already 25 minutes in. I don't think this will take very long. What we got? Right, what's the worst guitar you've ever played? I've just answered that. It was a Hondo, and it was absolutely crap. There are, obviously, I'm kind of not including toy guitars. You get ones, like sort of the wee tiny sort of Spanish acousticy things that you could pick up in Argos for 20 quid. I wasn't including them. I was talking about the first you know, what guitar's the worst we've ever played that should have been a reasonably playable electric guitar. There's someone asking about, they've just bought a West Tone Thunder, and they were asking how to, like, he wants to know what type of strings, and he's got a crackly pot. But a crackly pot, you want something like this, which you can buy. It's called Seversol Super 10 or Super 50 or Super something, which you can buy for about £6 a tin, which is basically the same as this. But that's for a guitar, whereas if you buy it for a car, you know, like for spraying into your fuse box and stuff like that, it's much cheaper. I think I got 3 cans of that for £5 or something like that. And it's great. I've still not run out. I've still got a third of a can left. That shit, this stuff's great. And it's amazing how many things you can fix with it. You know, like just simple things like in your car when the button for putting your windows up and down doesn't work. It's amazing how often just spray some of that into it and then it might work again, and light switches and stuff on your stereo that doesn't work, and basically anything. It's good, but it's especially good for guitars. It's my first go-to whenever you get something that's not quite working. Same with a crackly output jack. You know, so basically if you play guitar, it's worth investing in a can of that. Anyway, just a contact cleaner. He was asking what strings I buy for a bass. I've been buying cheap ones. I'm terrible with strings. I don't like paying the money for bass strings, so I've been buying. I think these ones are from eBay, and I think they're about £7 a set or something like that. Just Chinese ones, which I probably shouldn't be doing now that I'm gigging, playing bass in a band. But and then I said Roto Sound. Just I don't know enough about bass strings to recommend them, unfortunately. And he asked me if the West Tone Thunder was better than, well, this one you can't quite see, the Raven. Not the Raven, the Scavenger bass. And it's, well, you can see I'm a bit of a Washburn nut, seeing as I've got the full set. So I would say the Scavenger is better than a West Tone Thunder. A West Tone Thunder 1, which I think the 2 is a set neck and the 3 is a through neck. But partly down to just look, really, and I just think it's the best shape of guitar. The wings are just incredibly good looking, regardless of whether they're good or not. It just turns out they are good. So, yeah, I would say Scavenger, but West Tone Thunder are amazing guitars and basses. I don't actually own one. I think if you look in my videos, I've maybe done 3 or 4 because I've recommended people buy them, and then I've got them in for, you know, a setup or a cleanup or just a fix. They are fantastic. I think one of the reasons I've not bought one, to be honest, is because they were very big selling, so there's a lot of them kicking about. Whereas something like this, you know, you see this and I'm like, whoa, never seen one of them before, maybe never will again, so that makes me jump on it. Whereas like a West Tone Thunder, I see it and go up here, all right, there's one there, 150 quid, right, or maybe I'll not buy it just now and see if another one comes up, you know, a tenner cheaper or whatever. And it's like there's always a few Honda West Tone Thunders kicking about on eBay, guitars and basses. I've never played a guitar, but I'd imagine they're brilliant. I've got the West Tone Prestige, which is very similar to a Thunder, apart from it's got a bit more of a different aesthetic to it, but it's kind of the same shape, same similar sort of parts. It's a sort of deluxe Thunder, if you will. They don't survive well. The finish on them, the natural finish ones, they kind of people tend to sand them and try and varnish them themselves for some reason. I'm not sure exactly what they were like when they were new, but there's something iffy about the finish on them, just from an aesthetic point of view. But yeah, so I'd definitely recommend, if you're looking at a bass and you're trying to decide, oh, should I buy a West Tone Thunder? Buy a West Tone Thunder. They're awesome. Oh, that was the one thing. That guy was asking whether the Scavenger was good. He's a big Gene Simmons fan. Right, okay. And apparently he's got a bass. He plays a bass that looks a bit this sort of shape. Maybe he does. I'm not a big Gene Simmons fan. I watched a program called Rock School, something like that was maybe on 10 years ago, and he was teaching young kids in a sort of a private school how to be a rock band, and it was just like some of the things he was saying was like, yeah, oh, you don't need to be able to play, there's no point learning to play, it's all about the show. And you're just like, no, you need to be able to play, I'm afraid. And I've seen some of his bass solos, and he has literally and you know, that's not really, it's not a bass solo, that's you just you know, just doing that. You're just like, his bass playing is good, and I Was Made for Loving You, the sort of disco bass one. So maybe he can do it. He's just intentionally shows off. My favourite bit in that whole thing was he was doing this with this, as I said, with this private school, and he sort of, I don't know, early teenagers, maybe 12, 13, something like that, playing away. And then he had a special guest one week where he had his friend Tony Iommi came in. And on that day, it's like all the kids came in with all their dad's Black Sabbath records, because just how much more respected Tony Iommi is here anyway in Britain than Gene Simmons. You know, it's like you can just imagine the kids going up here, oh, we're getting a rock thing, all right, cool. And I was like, Gene Simmons, oh, the guy from Kiss, oh, that'll be fun, that'll be good. And it's like Tony Iommi's coming in, Tony Iommi, so they're here, sign, get my record, my concert stubs. So basically, they're not the same league, I'm afraid. I know there's a lot of people who really love Kiss. I was in the first band I was in. Gavin, the guitarist, pure love Kiss. Used to play some of their songs, which was they're really good songs to play. Like some of their sort of shouty ones. I think there's one actually called "Shout It Out Loud," and it's like, you know, that's like really catchy, super choruses and stuff like that. So good music. I just don't like Gene Simmons. I quite like the singer guy. He's a bit camp, but he's cool. What's his name? Not Ace Frehley, he's the one I don't really know anything about. Paul Stanley, he's a bit of a guitar slut though. It's like he's got Washburn signature models and BC Rich signature models, and I think every couple of years he just gets a different. There's so many different Paul Stanley, Ibanez. There's so many different Paul Stanley models of guitar. Oh, pretty cool. There's one with like smashed mirror on the front, and then leopard skin and pink and all that stuff. He's got some nice guitars out there. Yeah, so that was a wee bit off to the side there, talking about Kiss. Not a huge Kiss fan, but I do like them. They were actually meant to be playing at Download a couple of months ago, but it was cancelled. So that's the sort of thing I would really have liked to see Kiss at a festival I was at anyway, but I wouldn't pay the money to go and see them, you know, in Glasgow or anything like that, to go and see them as their own. Guy talking about the Squire Mustang, which I still rate as an awesome guitar. Brilliant. I might actually be doing a video of my pal just bought, I think, did he win money or something, or he got a tax refund or something, and he bought a couple of guitars. He was the one that actually showed me about he's bought one of the Mustangs. So he bought a Jazz Master, something like that. There's I think it's only new out this year, and it's a similar sort of price to the Mustang, but I think it's a slightly shorter scale and a slightly smaller body, but it's sort of Jazz Master shaped, a Squire, and he was not so impressed with that. And at the same time, he bought the more modern Squire Bullet Mustang, which is, as far as I can gather, exactly the same guitar, apart from it's got a stripe on it and costs 20 quid more. And he says that's pure amazing. So apparently that's the Jazzcaster one they've not got it right. He was kind of expecting the Mustang but a different shape. Apparently it's not. Apparently the pickups in it are awful, and it's just there's a few things he wasn't really that happy about. So maybe get a shot of that off him, see what it's like, see if I can make it work. But I mean, I was well impressed with the Bullet Mustang. It would have been nice if it had come with coil splits, but I mean it's only like 110 or 120 quid, so you can't really expect that. But I fitted coil splits in mine, and the one I had a shot of. Well, no, it was mine. I bought it and then sold it on later. Fantastic guitar. The coil splits just make it, for me, because it's sort of like a dual sonic, which is the whole two. Basically, what I've done with a lot of my guitars, I like having the two single coils, which gives you that sort of middle position telly thing, which is one of my favourite sounds on any guitar. It did that. The problem with that guitar was because it was so thin, I couldn't push pull pots in because there wasn't enough room in the guitar. The guitar just wasn't deep enough to take the push pull pot, so I had to put a switch on it. If you're looking at doing that, but it's well worth doing it. And the pickups in it were fine as well. I didn't change the pickups. I would have if instead I just broke into them and made them thing me. He's talking about a Katana amp, which I'm just not that into amps. I got recently off one of my pals a Black Star ID Core 10, which I keep meaning to do a video of. I will get round to it. I'm not really that, I don't know. I've got my amp, I've got my wee Laney, which is perfect, and I've got the Sovtech, which is my favourite amp ever, that's it. And it's like even, the Laney works an awful lot better at volumes like that I'm playing at just now than the Sovtech does, because it's 60 watt and it's only 15. So you can really sort of let the Laney open up a little bit. Sovtech would be more for gigging, but I'm not a huge amp man. Tube snob, I'm afraid. It's like, just because it's all tube doesn't make it all good, but all the best amps I've ever played, in fact, of all the best amps I've ever played, the Sovtech is the best, which is now worth a lot of money. I put the snakeskin on the front of it. And my pal had a Laney, not that model, that's a VC15. There's an LC15, which is a sort of cheaper version, doesn't have as many knobs on it and stuff. And when my pal had this, it was like, that's the first amp I've ever played that I really like, no pedals or anything like that. That's the best small amp I've ever played, and I ended up getting that in a trade, and I got the models mixed up, so I ended up with a slightly more expensive one. I think it's maybe twice the price. So as far as amps go, I would just buy a Laney LC15, or a 15R, which has got reverb, or the VC, which is, it's got a nicer handle and it looks a bit more expensive. I don't think it's that different internally. All the modelling stuff is just too much for me. But then again, it depends what kind of music you're into. I like sort of 70s, 60s, 70s type thing where but they're basically using Marshalls and stuff. So that's the sort of the sound I like. I do have a pedal board with tons of pedals on it, but most of them were a tenor, and it was just more of a sort of curiosity thing, really. So I would really maybe a rat pedal and a fuzz pedal, and then some sort of distortion. That's kind of it. Whereas obviously your Katana does everything. I don't really need that much range, so I'm not really into it. What's the guy talking about? The A5. Don't ask me about the Washburn. Does the tremolo on these make the strings drop off the neck when you push the bar? Didn't really understand that question. I'm assuming what he means is that, see, when you absolutely floor, like a Floyd Rose, like this one does it a wee bit. So you put it right down, it does that. And I think any tremolo does that, really, assuming it's got enough travel in it. I don't think a Bixby does, because it only bends that much. That's like the full range in a Bixby, something like that. On a Floyd Rose, it goes right down to being rubbish. Yeah. I don't know if they're really. There's someone asking about exactly what bucky is. It a liquor, a beer, or what? It's a red wine with caffeine and herbs stuck in it, and it's rocking. I bet you can probably get it. It's worth buying just for. Actually, I thought it tasted a wee bit like Vimto, which if you're American you won't know what Vimto is either. It's kind of like sort of mixed fruity, fizzy sort of thing. Which is I think it's kind of Vimto's kind of grapes and blackcurrant or something like that. I quite like Vimto. There's quite a lot of comments. This is from a man who's someone who actually lives in the region. Someone else got that. This is from the man that's never had a sip of bucky in his life. The knowledge is ingrained in you from a young age in Glasgow. Possibly, I think air is apparently even more so. Apparently it's just bucky. That's it. They don't even have water. You know what I mean? They just brush your teeth with bucky and air apparently. This guy Jez lives in the area for it, and it's like the folk around here who live by it have rarely even heard of it. It all goes to Scotland. It's like, that's probably true. Someone saying the vintage VA6. Yes, maybe. I think that might be about it. Or someone mentioned hardware that snaps like a carrot. I thought that's a fantastic analogy, which I'm going to use in future for when you just know exactly what it means. Like it snaps like a carrot. That's how good the tuners are. Yeah, that's right. The mystery guitar. That was a really good guitar. I just don't know what it. I still don't really know what it is. Obviously it was a copy, or it was a sort of very similar looking to this, but quite a very different guitar. Nothing, definitely nothing to do with Washburn. Someone trying to buy my Yamaha EX 520, which is the camera's on. No, I'm not selling that. I like that one. I like that one. Someone suggested for the pedal, just rip off a Joyo EQ and then stick them in a different container. Oh, actually, I did a video I never actually published. The proto pedal, which I meant to give to my pal. I haven't been round to see him yet. This is my Veritone type thing. I've added another thing onto it this time. So you've got your four different caps here of different values. It's 0.01, 0.02, 0.1 and 0.2. Well, I added this on it, which is basically a Scotch block with another cap on it, and this switch to turn that on instead of whatever these are. As it comes in, I think that's just like a normal cap you get from a tone control. I think they're 0.047, so it kind of sits right in the middle of all of these. So if you switch that on, it gives you a tone control and a choice of which pot you're using to test. I was thinking of it as a sort of test out different types of cap to see what you like in your guitar. You know, if someone says, "Oh, what my vintage Strat, blah blah blah," you want to put the 0.2 in, that's what you want, rather than actually take the guitar to bits and put the 0.2 in, you can just unscrew with a screwdriver. You used to put the 0.2 in, stick the guitar through it, and see whether you like it or not. And you could do that with anything. So I don't know if I don't know if the final pedal will have that on it. There'll probably be a version of the pedal that will have that on it, because I quite like that idea, just to see, you know, what it does. It's kind of why I built it. The pedal, just as like, what does a Veritone do? What difference it make whether you get 500k pots or 250k pots? It's like, well, here's a switch and you can stick any guitar into it and then see what it does, rather than actually fitting a Veritone or changing the pots inside your guitar. Because then even if you do like it, maybe what sounds amazing in your Strat doesn't, you know, in the Les Paul is atrocious, just because it's an entirely different type of guitar. So with this you can tell, you can find out which is right. Not really got much further with them. I've ordered a big pile of capacitors. Just now I'm looking at having a sort of, although there might be a few pedals in the range. They're obviously all going to be buckfasty ones. I've been saving up empty bottles of bucky, peeling the labels off them, which isn't that easy, by the way. That's more work than actually painting the guitar, is trying to get the label off intact. It's not easy to get a label off a bottle of bucky. They don't like to give up. So basically just sticking that on there, lacquering it, and then putting whatever I'm putting on it. So I think there's going to be a few different levels. I've acquired some empty pedals and stuff like that. So this I think I'm going to call one similar to this, kind of, apart from maybe it might have a 6 position instead of a 4 position, the studio pedal. So it's like a Veritone. You sit on the desk and you can sit and, you know, test things. I've got single button stomp switches, which will just have a stomp button in the front. It'll probably have the Veritone in the back, and then in and out. So it'll be like a sort of stage version of it. You know, so you can stomp it in and just have like a different sounds. I've also got some really cheap enclosures, so I might be doing a really budget version, which is they don't have a back on them, and maybe just something. And then there'll be a super pro version, because I've got one that's got like a broken Marshall pedal that's got like 5 push buttons on it, so it'll have tons of stuff on it. And I was also looking at a high pass filter as well, because a tone control is like a low pass filter. So what you do is you run the capacitor to earth. That's how it works in a guitar, basically what that's doing. But on a high pass, so that cuts away all the high and just lets the low through. Whereas if you do for a high pass filter, you can still, some of the caps you can still use, but what you do is you run the signal through the cap, and that cuts away all the bass. So you end up with a sort of, ideally, if you've got the high pass and the low pass knobs, here's your full sound, and you can sort of scoop away this bit, scoop away this bit. And I think if you've got them both on full bung, there'll be no sound coming out. Quite fancy doing that. Again, more of a sort of curiosity type thing. Again, these will be boutique, and I'm going to charge pure ridiculous amounts of money for them, just because I can. I think I'm going to go thinking a bit more, which I should probably have done with the Bucky guitars. I should have just made them more expensive, so they were more desirable. You know, it's like I'm selling them off for, you know, the same price you would expect to pick up the guitar that hadn't been buckified, that didn't have the extra switches in it that had been set up. You know, it's kind of what I'm selling them for. So you're really getting the Bucky thing for free. I don't know how to, because I've done 30 now, you know, kind of ranging, I think the cheapest ones are maybe about 60, 70 quid, and then up to about 130, something, you know, that kind of range, where you're kind of, if you're getting a guitar that's been set up, that plays well, you know, never mind, every single one of them's different. They've always got crazy switches that no other guitar's got, and they're Bucky coloured. This didn't survive the tuning very well. I might give this a quick wee tune and play out on a song, and I'll try not to be what do you call it this time, popcorn. That kind of threw me yesterday. I was doing a video for my pals Falcon, and I ended up trying to work out how to play popcorn, and I spent all day playing it. was great. I kind of got it at the end. One of the best tunes ever was Popcorn. Now I'm talking about it, I'm pure tempted to play it on this. I'm not going to though. These strings are so old. Completely dead. Probably no point in actually playing this, but a bit of distortion on it. Yeah, so this is one of the few guitars that actually works pretty well from straight up. I did have to adjust it. Some of the strings weren't playing at all because the saddles were, some of the A and the D saddle were right in against the body, so the E string was playing fine, and then we went to the A and the D, they were like 5 mil lower than the other ones, so obviously the strings didn't ring. Just again, the dangers of buying cheap guitars off Gumtree or Facebook Marketplace, where the person who's got it kind of, he said he'd been trying, a lovely guy, a Brummie, he was said he'd been trying to play the guitar since he was at school, 20 years or whatever it was, and had never really got the hang of it. And it's like that, people like that don't really know how to set up a guitar so it works, so it could have something pretty major wrong with it. And it's not like they've been dishonest in any way, they just don't know anything about guitars. They paid £100 for it, so therefore it should be good. It doesn't always work that way. It's always good to have a rough idea, or at least be prepared that you're going to you might get stuck with something. Actually, it happened to one of I sold the Yamaha ERG, the one that I'd painted like a burning village, to somebody, a lovely guy, I don't know, about a month ago or something like that, and he bought a Yamaha, another Yamaha, and it said that there was something about the way it was worded in the advert. I'd seen it, I didn't buy it. It said something about the next board, and you think, the next board, that could just be a case of adjusting the truss rods, but there's something about it just kind of like, I was like, no. And then this guy bought it, and then he arrived at my door a couple of days later, goes, what is it, can you fix this? And the neck was like that. And it's like, honestly, no, I can't. I think there are ways to fix these things by steaming them, but I mean, you're talking, I think he paid 40 or 50 quid for the guitar, and basically it was a waste. I think he sold all the hardware and got some of the money back, but there is a risk in it if there's something you can't fix. If it had been like a 1950s Fender, I'm sure you could have made that neck work. If you want to spend however much time and effort it does to try and straighten it out, I'm sure it can be done. If you've got like a £10,000 guitar, paying a couple £100 to get the neck fixed isn't really an issue, whereas if you've got a 50 quid guitar and you're paying a couple £100 to get the neck fixed, it is an issue, so you don't want to do that. He's actually given me the body because he tried to sell it and nobody wanted it, so he was driving past it. I wanted this body, so save it from the skip, so I've got another Yamaha body that I will find some use for at some point. I think it's one of those ones, Yamaha have got a different neck size pocket than most other guitars, so I'd have to either, it'll be one where if I've got a neck that doesn't fit anything else, I'll make it fit this Yamaha. Yeah, so I've been talking for nearly 50 minutes. I'm not quite broken the hour yet. Oh, somebody's talking about the adverts. The adverts are really annoying. It's like, see, I got a chance when I set it up. You can set up where the adverts come, and it's like, I'm trying to make money from YouTube. I'm not making very much. I've not made any yet. But it's like it doesn't let you alter where the adverts are until after you've uploaded the videos, which is really annoying. It's really slowed me up because I'm used to just doing my video, hitting upload, waiting. It pretty much takes the same amount of time. So if I say it's a 20-minute video, it takes 20 minutes to upload. During that 20 minutes, I'll go and take a photo of the guitar, stick it on it, publish it, done, forget about it. Whereas in this one, you've got to upload it, then I've got to wait for it to count to check copyright things and find out how many adverts are going in, and then it goes up, and then after that I can go in and change it so that the adverts don't come in the middle of the videos, because I mean I'm going to leave the videos at the skippable. You can choose the skippable ones, so I'm going to keep skippable ones in at the start and at the end, and then banners that come up during it. I don't know how many are going to come up during this, so see if it works. If this has got adverts in the middle of it, whatever it was I tried to do failed, because I found that really annoying. But it's not just me, I've noticed it on loads of videos I've been watching. They seem to have really upped the advert count. I don't really remember them being unskippable adverts coming in the middle of videos all the time, apart from the last sort of month or so. So if that blues guitar solos again, I'm going to scream. So I don't really know. I don't know which video that is. I don't think everyone gets the same adverts. I think you've got your own personal advert stash that YouTube gives you from previous data, rather than being anything that's actually connected to me. So I mean, obviously it would be nice if I got adverts for, like guitars, but I don't think that necessarily works. It's just whatever adverts that YouTube decide that you're sort of into. I got one for Star Wars figures the other day, actually, because I've been watching a few guys on YouTube doing Star Wars, original Star Wars toys, which is, for some reason, I find entertaining. I do have my original Star Wars characters in a box upstairs. I put them all on eBay and then decided not to sell them, just for anything. But I find it quite entertaining watching these folk. But just when you get someone that's really passionate about something, even if it's something you're not really that interested in, when they're really excited about it, you're like, it's like, yes, an original Boba Fett with the gun. Like, whoa! This person's pure in tears because they love it so much, and it's just like, yeah, good for you, yeah. Good. There's probably a certain amount of that with me as well. This guitar channel, something like this is probably. I'm sure you could give this to many YouTube guitar-y people, and they're just going to go, not even going to look at it. But that's exciting to me. It's interesting, much more interesting than, like, oh, the new Squire Classic Vibe. Now it's got humbucker in it. Whoa, how amazing! It's not that interesting at all. Whereas this one, it's spiky shape. It's BBR. Great stuff. So hopefully the adverts will be less. The plan is with that's an idea for the pedal. You call it a bucky brigade pedals, because there's a chip called a bucket brigade. I'm not really sure. I've been watching GHS pedals guy. I like his video. I don't really watch that many YouTube guitar-y type channels, but I like the pedals guy. Again, I think it's a wee bit more to do with it. I like the guy. And I'm sort of interested in pedals, but not really. I don't do very many pedal reviews. I don't really buy any. I bought like a chorus and a delay to see what they were like. Never really used them, but I do find it quite interesting. I like that guy. So look up JHS pedals. He seems to enjoy it. Yeah, so you're calling the pedals the Bucky Brigade, but a bucket brigade is a chip that you buy, which I can't remember exactly what it's for. Is it delay? It does something like that, and it's in every delay pedal since the 70s or something like that, or every chorus pedal or whatever it is, whatever thing it is, it does it. Well, this is actually from my Westbury Standard, which is a Matsumoku type guitar, which I don't own. It was actually my pal's one, and actually the owner of Westbury messaged me. I messaged him back to ask him about it, but I don't think he really bothered to. He probably didn't watch the video. Hello people, I just want to clear something up. If there's a sticker on the guitar that says "Made in the USA," then the sticker was added later. My name is Charles Fracapane, and I own Westbury guitars, and all the vintage Westbury standard guitars ever made, including this one, was made at the Matsumoku plant, which I think if he'd watched my video, he would have seen that I'd said it was Matsumoku anyway. But again, it is possible that in order to try and sell these guitars, because made in Japan wasn't a good thing in the 80s, and it was like, because people remember 10 years ago when Japan made crap guitars, so when you get all your Washburns and all that, they kind of didn't want to be associated with Japan. They wanted to be associated with America, because America make the best guitars. So it sounds like Westbury, at some point somebody was going sticking Made in USA stickers on them, and Westbury's a sort of American-y sounding name, as is Washburn, because Washburn was originally they made acoustics like in the 1900s sort of thing, and then I think during the war they stopped, and then the name was bought over in the late 70s, and then up came what we now know as Washburn. But it was actually a run of these, or more accurately the Falcons and the Hawks, which actually, when they went to America from Japan, what they did was they sanded off the serial number and stamped made in the USA and put a serial number on it, so people do have, no, I've got an American one, it says so and it's not a sticker, and it's like, no, they cheated. And also interestingly, all those American ones have the same serial number, because they were fiddling the books. Because if you pay, you had to pay your 10% or 20% tax on every guitar, serial number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there we go. So you've paid the tax on the one with the serial number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why not have 10 or 100 guitars with the serial number, so you only have to pay tax on one of them? Yeah. so there's a wee bit of dodgy stuff going on. They were a little bit more subtler later on with the Washburn, Kramer, BC Rich, all these companies did it on the neck plate. It's got a post box, you know, it's like new Kramer Guitars, New Jersey, PO Box, whatever it is. And you think, oh, yes, they did have an office. So they're not technically lying. Same with BC Rich as well. They're not technically lying because yes, the office, they do have an office in California or whatever it is, but the guitars are still made overseas and they've got nothing. The office is just an office. But so it doesn't actually say on it made in America. It just has an American thing and it doesn't say anywhere else where it is made. I think there was is it Peavey? Were the one exception. I think they actually released guitars that said made in the USA on them, and they weren't, basically. So it was just a total lie. Not all of them. Peavey did make guitars in America. There was a cheaper range that says. No, I don't even think they get into trouble with the Peavey USA. That's fine because it just says America on it. But there's actually ones that say made in America, which is a lie. Peavey's one I've not really come across. I don't think they're really that popular over here. We get lots of Peavey amps, but not very many guitars. There's actually one I want called it's a relatively recent one. A rotor. It's called kind of not. It's a sort of explorer shape, but you get one that's kind of like it's a purple quilt, and it's got really fancy binding on it, and it's got cool tuners, and it's a really quite fancy one of them. They're not actually that expensive. Maybe 200 odd quid you can see them for, but I've not seen the right one yet. From Jim Deacon, good stuff. I think that's me for. Yep, that's somebody also mentioned my BC Rich Wave video from must be years ago. My acoustic non-distorted part reminds me of UFOs coming of Prince Kajuko. I don't know. I don't know enough UFO. I know they did play Washburns at one point, and I know Doctor and such things, but never really. Maybe just maybe too many albums, or I don't know, for some reason they weren't cool when I was starting. You know, they didn't sit with Sabbath and Purple for some reason. Yeah, so 57 minutes. I've got to manage to get it under an hour. Thanks for listening. Next week, I'll be fixing this up. Tempted to keep this. I don't know. It's awful good considering that basically all I did was raise a couple of saddles and haven't even changed the strings. It's actually playing like a pretty decent guitar. I wouldn't be, you know, if I was having a jam round at someone's house and he goes, "Oh, you can play the electric guitar over there." Speaking of having jams at someone's house, I forgot to mention, but I should mention when I was in last week when I was doing the video at my pal's house using the P bass, you know, the bass that was shaped like a P. I should really mention those are some of my oldest pals. Peg, whose house it was, I've known since I was at Cubs, which is like Cub Scouts. We were the same six. I think he's a couple of years younger than me. Apparently I was his sixer. I don't remember that much. He's one of those folk I've always known, always said hello to, never hung about with until like in my 20s when he ended up being in a band with some of my pals, and then we ended up in the same band. He was in the Blind Doug band, which were a Caravan sort of prog rock tribute, and then recently in Jesse Ray, he was a guitarist in Jesse Ray. He is called, his username is Half Bottle, and he does his own songs, and he is on SoundClouds. I should put a link to it if I remember in this, to Half Bottle songs. Andy, who was playing the 12-string guitar in that video, is in a band called Leatherwurst, which actually had it on the screen yesterday. I looked it up, so it's like I'm going to use that screen for advertising, not for today because I was reading stuff off it. He's in a Leatherwurst, which is leather sausage apparently in German. Him and a few good pals kind of play in his pal's kitchen and they record things. I kind of sort of joined the band a few times, but it's just they're not my kind of music. It's kind of it just doesn't. There's something about it that just doesn't. I quite enjoy listening to it, but playing it, it's like it's not rock as I see it. I don't really know what to do in it. So I'll stick a link to them as well. Leatherwurst and Mole, who I've known since I was 15 or 16, was in my first band. Like he was the first person I knew that liked the Stones maybe and Led Zeppelin. So you'll go back to when you're 14, 15, and you know, my very first bottles of Bucky was hanging about with Mole, who I remember to put a link up. He's got his own SoundClouds as well. So all recording people, but good pals who I've not really seen for this year because of the COVID thing. 1 hour exactly. Rock on!